we're going to talk about all that and more here on this episode. Guys, another round of applause for your boy Tyler. It is now 6 weeks strong. We are going with this podcast. I have dedicated myself to breaking The Undertaker's undefeated streak by going 21 wins and 0 without breaking a single week. So that means if I don't post this episode for the next, what are we on? We're on week 6. So if I don't post this episode for the next 11 Wednesdays, then I lose. So I got to keep the streak going. We got to reach the Undertaker streak. And we reached 21 and 0. What's going to happen? Wait, was the Undertaker 21? No, the Undertaker was like 23 and 0, wasn't he? Right? How am I forgetting this? Undertaker. Wait, hold on. So he was 20 and 0 at WrestleMania 28. Then he beat CM Punk, so that's 21. And then he lost to Brock, so he was 21 and 0. Okay, so I think I was right? Hold on. Undefeated streak. I'm pretty sure it was 21 and 0, and then he lost. Yeah, I was right. It was 21 and 0. So I got to go to 21. So we're at 6 now, which means I got to go 15 more weeks. 15 more weeks. That's a lot. I could do it. 15 more weeks. I could do it. You know, when we first started doing the Chill Spill podcast, it was on June 1st, 2019. I made that podcast mainly because a lot of people were asking me to make a podcast. I never intended on making a podcast because I felt like a lot of wrestling and a lot of other wrestling fans and, content creators already have a podcast. So it's like, well, why do I need a podcast? I already do. And this is back when I was doing daily content. Like, I was pumping out daily YouTube videos. But since then, I have not been doing daily YouTube videos. My channel got deleted at one point. That was a whole year after the fact. But because I was already doing so much content on YouTube, I really did not feel like there was a reason for me to have a podcast. So I did it 1 week. Then I did it, I think, like the following week. And then maybe like 2 weeks later. And then I was very on and off with the podcast for pretty much like an entire year and a half. I was on and off with the podcast. Like from June 2019 to, I want to say, like, basically August 2020, I did up to like 16 episodes. So that tells you how spaced out, how much dedication I had to the podcast at that point. And it wasn't until, I want to say, episode 17 that I decided that I'm going to try doing this podcast weekly. And it was because at that point in time, I hadn't had a channel. I mean, I had the Tyler Mask YouTube channel, but the Tyler-kun YouTube channel was still deleted. And I'm like, you know what? People still want to hear my thoughts. I probably shouldn't neglect my YouTube audience like this because I was doing Twitch more often than not and doing Patreon. So let me pump out some content for YouTube. And I said, as a way to get weekly content out, I'll do the podcast. Now, at the time, I really didn't have in my head that I would keep it going because I've been so on and off with it. But I've basically made it my mission. I made it a goal and I made it a mission to go to Undertaker's undefeated streak of 21 and 0. And I'm happy to say that this is the 38th episode of the Chill Spill podcast. And that is pill spelled with an S, but it's silent, much like the Undertaker is now that I have reached 21 consecutive episodes of the pod. Anybody notice that? Anybody? I'm just saying, has anybody noticed that Smark Callaway has been very silent since I started going consecutive episodes of the Chill Spill podcast? Man's retired. Don't post on TikTok no more. Barely see his tweets on Twitter. I'm just saying he's probably shaking right now. He think I was coming for his ass, but I have. Yeah. Goldberg next. Anyway. Yeah, we are on our 21st episode consecutively. Next week we'll be actually cracking the Undertaker streak of 22 weeks consecutive. It's basically all but, I don't even have to say it now. This practically is now a weekly podcast. Like, I've done it every Wednesday for 20. We are weekly podcast. It's not really much about, oh, are you going to do it this week? Are you going to do it this week? No, we are here every Wednesday and Tuesday on Patreon. I'm still in the works of trying to move this to more podcasting platforms. I'm on Podbean right now. You guys can listen to it there. If you listen to it there, it helps out more because we can get more traction on other websites. I'm working on other podcasts, like I'm working on Spotify right now. I need to get approved to get on Spotify. And then right now, I'm also trying to work on Apple Podcasts. Now, I don't know if a lot of you know this, but your boy does not use any Apple products. Like I don't like to say I'm an anti-Apple person, but I have an Android phone. I use PC. I have gaming laptops. Like now, my mother, however, she is all Apple everything, and we tease each other all the time. She is Apple everything: MacBook, iPhone, AirPods, Apple Watch. She's got the whole 9 yards. Everything she doesn't have but the Apple TV. But I refuse to buy anything Apple. I just am not an Apple guy. That's not my branding. Not a fan of the functionalities. Now, I did work in a sales department where I had to sell Apple products, but even then I'm like, eh. But the thing that is really making me upset, and this is kind of getting into a bit of me, but that's the Chill Spill podcast for you. It's not all about wrestling, sometimes about other things. The thing about me is that I have been looking for a new pair of earphones. Not like headphones, because if you guys notice in my videos, I wear a specific headset mostly every single stream, and that is my Bose headset, which I've been rocking for 3 years straight. These things still work like a goddamn charm. They are the best headphones out there in the entire world. But I've been picking up working out now, and it does not go well when you're working out with headphones on. So I'm like, well, I've been looking for a new pair of earbuds. Now, a lot of the earbuds nowadays have like that in-ear canal type piece. Like, you know what I mean? Like the earbuds have that little piece that sticks out and you put in your ear. Like, I find that very uncomfortable. I can't do those headphones. But that's literally 95% of earbuds nowadays. And the other 5% of earbuds that don't have it are either old or like crusty as hell and aren't even that good. So I keep on scouring the internet for them, and I can't find any that are going to fit my ears. And the only like present day current pair of earbuds that will suit my ears and be comfortable are the goddamn Apple AirPods 2nd generation. And I'm trying everything in my power not to break down and buy these things, because it will go against everything I have ever it will go against my morals if I buy these earbuds. People will tease me for the rest of my life if I own anything Apple, because I talk so much shit growing up. So I've been resisting trying to buy these things. And now, as far as the podcast goes, I'm like, all right, well, even though I don't like Apple, I do realize that Apple Podcasts is a good way to go as far as podcasting go, because a lot of people actually listen to wrestling and really just any podcast through Apple Podcasts. A lot of Apple users do. So I said, all right, well, let's try Apple Podcasts. I go to the website and it says sign in with your Apple ID, and I'm like, well, I don't have an Apple ID because I don't own anything Apple. So I'm like, so you telling me I need to own an Apple product or sign up with my like an Apple account in order to use like? What kind of bullshit is that? I'm just trying to fucking market myself, boy. Like, way out of here. So that's something else. Now, I don't know if this means I have to buy a whole iPhone to get an Apple. I probably don't have to. I would imagine I probably have to sign up for like an Apple account or whatnot. I feel like I might have one already, because I did own an iPod when I was younger. So I may already have. I haven't actually tried to sign in yet. I don't know. It's something I'm putting out there. As these weeks go on, I will update you guys on this podcast, because my plan is to expand this podcast this year. Right now, we're on Patreon, YouTube, and Podbean, but as I said earlier, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We're gonna try to extend this out. We're gonna try and grow this podcast out, because if it's gonna be a weekly thing, I want to get more listeners. We're getting, we got 200 listeners in the last episode on the Tyler-kun channel, which is good. So I have decided, and I know this is like my third time making a decision with this podcast, but it happens. So I have decided we may just end up keeping the Chill Spill podcast on the Tyler-kun channel. Now, the reason I originally moved it to the Tyler Mask YouTube channel is because, of course, the channel was removed and I couldn't post it here. But when the channel came back, I kept on posting the podcast to the Tyler Mask YouTube channel, because I wanted to keep the Tyler Mask YouTube channel active. I didn't want it to be inactive. I didn't want to be like, oh, well, now that I got my other channel back, this channel is completely dead and I don't post here anymore. I'm like, in some way, shape, or form, I want to keep that an active channel. I mean, I know the channel is going to get little to no views, but I want to keep it active, just, you know, in case anything happens, or just to have that, you know, little backup thing. So I said, well, we'll just post the podcast to the Tyler Mask YouTube channel, and it does okay. I mean, some weeks it doesn't even do that well. Like one week it did like 40 views, and I'm like, ooh, that's bad. So I do like 2 streams over here. The first stream was last week, and I unlisted that video and I posted it to the Tyler Mask YouTube channel, and it did well over there. But the premiere did really well, like better than I expected. So then we ran it back again last week, and that was the Stardom All-Star Dream Cinderella / AEW Revolution review, and that one did like really good as well. And I'm like, you know what? At this point, we'll just keep the podcast on this channel. So if you guys are fans of the podcast, good for you. You get to listen to this podcast on the YouTube channel. If you can, please listen to this on other podcasting platforms, because I would appreciate it very much. And if you listen to this on podcasting platform, go subscribe to my YouTube channel, Tyler-kun Williams, Tyler Mask. Go follow me on Twitch, twitch.com/TylerSuplex, patreon.com/TylerMask, twitter.com/TylerWinzoyT, and tiktok.com/suplex or @suplex, SOOPLEX. So, 10 minutes of plugging and talking about this podcast out the way. Let's now talk about some damn wrestling, because that's all you guys ever want to hear about is wrestling for some reason. I don't know why. This dead niche. Anyway, so let's talk about WrestleMania. WrestleMania is basically a little under a month away. April the 10th, April the 11th. Today is Stone Cold Steve Austin Day, March 16th as I'm recording this. And WrestleMania is right around the corner. Match cards are starting to form up, which we will be talking about at the very end of the podcast. That will be our ender for the next few weeks, will be the WrestleMania card formatting. Tickets were supposed to go on sale today, and as a lot of you know, I am very much still on the fence about going to WrestleMania. As you guys know, I've never actually been to a WrestleMania. I've been to Wrestle Kingdom, I've been to SummerSlam, I've been to Royal Rumble, I've been to a lot of wrestling events, but WrestleMania is one I have never been to. I've never been to WrestleMania. And I could have went 2 years ago, because I was in the actual city for WrestleMania, but I decided I wasn't gonna go because I didn't have the money, and 2, I wasn't all interested in the card. But like 2 nights of WrestleMania, it's a little bit hard to resist at least going to one night. But with COVID going on, it's like, oh well, you know, so many people in the arena, you can still get COVID, and I've been COVID free this entire time. So the one thing I would hate to do is fucking get COVID, because I made a dumbass decision of going to this goddamn show. So I'm like, all right, let's get a vaccine first, and then if I get a vaccine enough time, then I might go. So I'm still on the fence about it. I can guarantee you, if the case were different and COVID was not a thing, I would have more than likely absolutely went to WrestleMania last year. But that aside, tickets were supposed to go on sale today, but they have been delayed. I don't know exactly why. There was really no point given, but they been moved and rescheduled. It could be going up as early as the next few days or even next week. But what has come out is that WWE is originally aiming for 45,000 fans in attendance for both nights of WrestleMania. Now, the capacity for Raymond James Stadium, if it were going to do a regular WrestleMania, would have been 60,000 people. So that's 75% of full capacity for WrestleMania. Now, the biggest wrestling show WWE has done in front of a crowd since the pandemic is 0. Since the pandemic, and I'll give WWE a lot of credit here. I'll give them a lot of credit. Because since March of last year, they have not done a single show with fans. As far as the main roster goes, I can't speak for NXT, but they have not done a single show with fans. They've done the Thunderdome. For a solid like 2 months, I think there was like literally nothing at all, no crowd noise, no nothing, just the fans and empty seats. It was a weird period for like a solid 2 months until they got the Thunderdome underway. But what I can say here is that with WrestleMania having this many fans, Does it pose a potential outbreak in Florida? Yes, it does. But you gotta remember, at this point, Florida don't fucking care. Florida is at the point where they don't care. Now, 2 states have already dropped the mask mandate, Texas and Mississippi. I would not be surprised if Florida is the next to drop the whole state mandate. And I forgot to turn my air off, so now the air is going off. Hold on a second. But as I was saying, I wouldn't be surprised if Florida is next with the way they've lifted up all the mandates and all that kind of stuff. So now I'm still going to Florida, so there is a level of hypocrisy there. I mean, I'm kind of at the point where it's like I'm just used to the way we live, that it's like at this point you might as well go out. Like, we have been doing this whole quarantine, wearing masks and all. We've been doing this for a whole calendar year now. It's like at this point, if you are stuck in the house, I mean, that's your decision if you want to stay in the house. But if you feel like you need to be stuck in the house all day, cooped up, I don't know about you, but I had to go to work every single day since the pandemic started. So my fear has kind of been gone for a while. Like, there's always still the chance I could get COVID. And like I said, I haven't gotten COVID at all. And I work around people all the time. A lot of my coworkers have gotten it. Surprisingly, my workplace was not shut down, but I haven't gotten it. So I really don't have too much of a worry because I know how to stay safe. I know to wear my masks. I'm not one of these people out here not wearing masks, not social distancing. Whenever I come in contact with somebody COVID, I let people know, and I quarantined. It's happened, I think, twice, and I quarantined both times. And I didn't get it. So I know how to take precautions. Now, do other fans know that? No. I'm not saying everybody knows that, but some fans, they don't. And that's what you got to worry about. You don't got to worry about yourself. I mean, you do got to worry about yourself. But you don't got to worry about you not following the rules. You got to worry about other people, other dirty-ass people not following the rules. Because who knows if little Jimmy, I don't know, maybe not little Jimmy. Who knows if Big Timmy, big 300-pound, lives in his mother's basement, 35-year-old Trump supporter who thinks that masks are dumb, Big Timmy, decides to come to WrestleMania with no mask on. Well, let's say he gets in with a mask, gets into the arena, takes his fucking mask off, walking around the place. People probably trying to stay away from this guy. Probably has COVID, touching all over everything. With 45,000 people in attendance, do you honestly think they're going to have enough staffers in the building to clean everything as the show is going on? I highly doubt it. So, if one person walks in with COVID, will they affect all 45,000 people? I don't think so. But if multiple people, if let's say even, I don't know, 1% of 45,000, just 450 people walk in with COVID, will that affect a lot of people? I think it will. You could spread out 450 people across the entire stadium and everybody gets affected. So that's really my thought process is, I'm not worried about, am I going to be safe? Am I going to be, act safe? Because I know I will. Will others? And the answer to that is no, because a lot of people don't know how to. So that's really my concern about there being that many damn fans. But it's like, at this point, what are you going to do? It's Florida. A lot of people are already conditioned to the way of living over there, which is hectic as hell. I haven't looked at COVID numbers on that state in so long because it just keeps going up. There's really no reason to see if it's going down or not. If you're going to go to WrestleMania, you're going to go to WrestleMania. I'm not here to down anybody for going or make you feel shameful for wanting to go, because goddamn it, I want to go to WrestleMania. You know what I mean? I want to go out there and have fun and go to my first Mania. But there's a lot going on in the world right now, and maybe it's not that important. So, will I think they sell all 45,000 tickets? You got to take into account the fact that there are not going to be international travelers coming to this show. There won't be. A lot of the wrestlers who've been traveling from the UK to United States and Japan, United States, are traveling on work visas, they've been traveling because they work for a wrestling company that are contracted in the countries they're traveling to. If you're not traveling for business, a lot of these countries are saying you can't travel here. So for a lot of the UK fans, they can't come over here. A lot of the Japanese fans, they can't come over here. Like really a lot of the world, and I don't blame them because the United States is a very fucked up ass place to come or live in, really. But a lot of places, they are not letting people come over here. So will they sell out? I'm gonna say they probably won't. And for both nights, they definitely won't because Wrestle Kingdom didn't even sell out both nights. So I'm gonna say they won't sell out. Now, will they pack in at least 50? I think they will pack in at least somewhere between like 20,000 and maybe like 30,000 for night 1. And then anywhere from 15,000 to 20,000 on night 2. That's my estimation for how I think WrestleMania is going to look this year. I don't think they're packing in 45,000. Even if they have the most elite looking card in the world, there are a lot of fans who would love to go to this show, but realize that it's unsafe to go to a show with this many people, and are probably going to say, I'm going to use my judgment here, and probably think that's not a good idea, and decide to wait out until next year's WrestleMania, when hopefully COVID's under control. So yeah, I don't think they're selling out. They're probably delaying ticket sales because they want to see if they could get more people into the stadium, which at that point is an even worse idea. If you can fill up 60,000 fans, that's even worse. If the plan is for them to fill up that entire stadium of fans, I can guarantee you I'm definitely not going. Because that is way too many fucking people in one arena to contain, to control, to make sure everyone doesn't have their mask on, to make sure everything is clean. Now, 45,000 is a lot, but 60,000 is too plentiful. But that's where we're at right now with WrestleMania tickets. I'm still very much on the fence, but more so leaning towards no than yes. But outside of WrestleMania, there's a lot going on that weekend. Before WrestleMania, I should say. With NXT, they've announced last week they'll be having a 2-night event similar to WrestleMania. Their first ever 2-night takeover. Now, they had 2 nights events before. They had the Great American Bash, which was a 2-night event for Wednesday on USA Network. And they've had the 2-night Super Tuesday event, which is where we saw, I believe, that was the show where we had the Fatal 4-Way to crown the new NXT champion. The Fatal 4-Way 60-minute Iron Man match, which just was... Does anyone even remember that match? The Fatal 4-Way 60-minute Iron Man match? Like, it was such a odd, crazy, over-the-top concept. But how many people actually remember that match happening? That's my question. But okay, outside of that... Well, I say outside of that. In that... we have another 2-night event. But this time, it's actually a 2-night event, not a 2-week event. So this is going to be happening Wednesday, April the 7th. On the USA Network. So not on the WWE Network, but actually on television. It will be on the USA Network. It will be on the WWE Network probably a day later. But also got to remember that on April the 4th, WWE Network will be no more, and it will be migrating over to Peacock. So this will be on Peacock, I should say. The day later. But then the second night will be streaming on Thursday, April the 8th. So this is probably the first time I remember NXT actually streaming on a Thursday. So that's actually an interesting day. We'll see how these numbers do. But the second night will be streaming exclusively to Peacock. So night 1 on television, night 2 on Peacock. And an event will be called NXT TakeOver Stand and Deliver. Now, why Stand and Deliver? I have no idea. Is it NXT TakeOver Stand, and then the second night is NXT TakeOver Deliver, or is it Stand and Deliver? I think it's a Stand and Deliver. imagine if like NXT TakeOver Stand and then NXT TakeOver Deliver. That'd be funny. But yeah, 2-night takeover event. I think this was unnecessary. They could have just had 1 night, but I understand the concept. They want to say, hey, let's do takeovers Wednesday, Thursday, SmackDown Friday, WrestleMania Saturday and Sunday, Monday Night Raw on Monday. And then remember, NXT is moving to Tuesday night officially starting April the 12th. So then you'll have NXT on Tuesday, which will keep that whole, 6 days of WWE cycle. Now, that'll be a little bit too much WWE for me. I think I might only watch maybe 1 or 2 of the takeovers. Of course, I'll be watching both WrestleManias if I don't attend. And then I may check out Monday Night Raw. And then I'll probably end up checking out NXT on Tuesday. So I'm saying fatigue, but I'll probably watch all of it. No, my fucking ass. Anyway. Also on that show, they announced that they will be bringing up the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships. The NXT Women's Tag Team Championships, you ask? Yes, the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships. Now, how did this exactly come into existence? Well, you see, 2 weeks prior on NXT, we had a match between the Dusty Rhodes Women's Tag Team Classic winners Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. And they went up against Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax for the Women's Tag Team Championships, the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Because remember, the Dusty Rhodes Classic winners will get a shot at the titles. So they actually got it 2 weeks ago. Now on that show, it kind of ended in a BS finish because the match ended when the referee got knocked out. And WWE official, or I should say main roster official, they keep on saying WWE, but they treat NXT like it's the estranged child for some fucking reason. WWE official Adam Pearce comes out, and he comes out with a main roster referee and calls for the bell when Dakota Kai looks like she is passing out. It's not a screw job completely, but it pretty much was a screw job. And Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax retained the Women's Tag Team Championships. And I thought it was interesting, and in this heel versus heel match, the heel team got screwed over by another heel. Like, it was such a weird match. And this is why heel versus heel matches don't work sometimes. Like, I just felt like the finish for the fact of it, Dakota being a heel just felt kind of odd. But a week later, William Regal decided that, hey, we got screwed over. So in rebellion of getting screwed over out of our women being the tag team champions, I'm going to create the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships. And I'm going to give it to you, Raquel and Dakota, who worked so hard to earn these championships. And Dakota and Raquel are your new inaugural NXT Women's Tag Team Championships. I will say, I'm not really a big fan of how the titles look. I mean, it's literally pretty much just the NXT Tag Team Championships plates with white straps. It just, I don't know. I feel like the plate and the white strap looks ugly to me. I'm not a fan of it. It may grow on me over time, but I'm not a fan. Now, they were crowned the new tag team champions. Raquel said, we'll defend against anybody or something like that. I didn't fucking want to. Anyway, Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart came out to confront them. This led to William Regal making a match official between the two parties for the tag team championships, in a match that saw Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart become the new NXT Women's Tag Team Champions. So within one night, we already have two champions. So I was happy to see Ember and Shotzi win the tag team championships. What I was confused by was the sequence in events. This all just seemed like very, very weird sequence in booking. I really just don't get how they got to this. But like, I get how they got to this point, but why did they need to do all this to get to this point? You just had a whole tournament, and in this tournament, the winners were going to face the women's tag team champions, Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. But they lost. It's okay that they lost, but they lost by a BS finish. And because they lost by a BS finish, which was caused by a main roster, official, they probably should get reprimanded by the upper management, but they probably won't, because kayfabe, or not kayfabe. Because you got screwed, you said, I'm going to create my own tag team championships. Now, mind you, let's add out the fact that this is completely unnecessary. I don't think for a second that we needed to have NXT Women's Tag Team Championships. I understand they have a stacked women's division. But I never once, in my entire time of watching NXT, ever asked for this to happen. Number one, they already have enough championships. You have the NXT Championship, the North American Championship, the Tag Team Championships, the Women's Championships, and now you have the Women's Tag Team Championships. It just seems like it was an unnecessary addition to this roster. Is it going to hurt the NXT Women's division? No, it won't. But I just feel like it wasn't really needed. My thing is, we already have them. I'm not going to sit here and bitch and moan that we have championships. My thing is how you brought them into creation. Why not just have the Dusty Classic and then the winners are the inaugural tag team champions? Why did you do all of that tournament to have them face off against the real women's tag team champions And then they get screwed out of it, and then you're like, well, we're going to create our own. Because essentially what that looks like to me is, well, our championships are inferior to yours. And because we can't win your championships, we'll create our own. Because remember, guys, the concept of the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships are that the champions can travel from Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. We did actually get, I believe, Sasha and Bayley versus Tegan and Dakota at one point. So this isn't the first time we got the Women's Tag Team Champions to defend on NXT. This is like the second or third time. So it's not like it's a lost concept. They could have still done that concept. But now it's completely closed off to Raw and SmackDown again. So you're breaking that whole concept of the third brand by keeping those women from Raw and SmackDown off NXT. And this is what I get into with the whole NXT is still not feeling like the third brand. They say this is the third brand, but they treat it like it's still developmental. Every draft, NXT is left off. Survivor Series last year, NXT was left off. Royal Rumble, NXT was there, and they acknowledge NXT every year as they had to since 2018 because they realized that they don't have that much of a roster for their women's Royal Rumble, so they need to include the NXT women in there. And then they throw in the men's NXT roster just because they can. So Royal Rumble is the only time NXT matters. Any other part of the year, they don't give a fuck about NXT. They brought in the NXT Women's Championship at WrestleMania last year, but the end goal was to get it onto Charlotte Flair. So what does that do exactly? That proves once again that NXT is inferior to Raw and SmackDown. Not one point since Survivor Series 2019 has NXT ever felt equal to Raw and SmackDown. It is a disservice to NXT that they keep on making it feel like less than. Stop doing that. And the whole call-ups thing, like, we still call it call-ups. We still, in 2021, see Rhea Ripley moving from NXT to Raw as a main roster call-up. Not a draft pick, not a move, but a call-up. Call-up basically means that you are going from less to more. Why do they keep doing this to NXT? But you consistently say it's the third. It's not the third brand. It's not. It's developmental. Say it like it is if you're not going to treat it that way. That's how I feel about it. That's how I feel about it. Call it what it is. It's developmental still. I mean, it really isn't, because a lot of the people on the NXT roster, you could even say, are better than a lot of the main roster guys. And not even more so in the ring, but in the way they're booked. Then they go over to Raw and SmackDown to die. It's like NXT is where they're born, and then Raw and SmackDown is where they die. That's where I see NXT at right now. And it's sad, because that's how it's been for many, many years. But now, it feels even less than that, because the product, in my opinion, the NXT product, isn't even as good as it used to be. So that's even worse, in my opinion. You know what? I'm not. I don't even have the energy to talk about that much anymore. It's whatever. This is why I don't catch up with this product much. Anyway, let's get to AEW here. So AEW Dark Elevation just happened yesterday. We did see some matches on that show. I caught a few. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. AEW Dark, I just don't care about it. I don't care to see 17 squash matches in a row. I just don't care to see that. Now, if you're going to have a few meaningful matches, cool. I might tune in for the meaningful matches. But repeated squash matches, 8 minutes, 7 minutes, 6 minutes, I don't care. I don't have the time for that. So, Dark Elevation, I had a little bit of excitement because it's a new show. And they announced some matches. I'm like, okay, this is cool. They announced 3, 4, 5, 6 matches. That's all right. We'll have like a 1-hour show. But then, by like the end of last week, we had 16 matches announced. And I said, I'm not watching the show. 16 matches? Dark is meant to be 1 hour. Why do they feel the need to make Dark 2, 3 hours some weeks? So, I was already turned off by the amount of matches on the card. Then I got turned off by the quality of the matches, because a lot of them were against guys, dark guys. I call them dark guys because they're the guys that lose on dark every single week. Against dark guys, so I know it's going to be squash matches. It's like, the only reason I'm tuning in is to see how Paul Wight does on commentary. And I will say, Paul Wight's commentary was fairly good. Wasn't bad. Wasn't great, but he was fairly good. I enjoy him and Tony Schiavone together. I think as weeks goes on, he'll grow into the role, and he'll get better. One person who was in the main event of AEW Dark was Maki Itoh, who I'm very much a big fan of. She was in the main event against Riho. They had a good match. You could even say it was fairly good. A good match against each other. Riho won the match. Maki Itoh tweeted out that was her last match in AEW. She's going back to Japan, so she has not signed with AEW. She is going back to Japan. She's leaving us already. Traitor. But Maki Itoh is going, but hey, even though the Queen of Simps is leaving us Simps to basically fester in our own dismissive thoughts of not getting any pussy, we have a new woman to simp over. Layla Hearst has signed with AEW. Quite the acquisition. We've seen Layla Hearst on AEW Dynamite a few times. We've seen her on Dark a few times. Every time I see her on Dynamite, she's really damn good. And I've known she's been good because in 2019, in 2020, before her passing, sadly, she was a part of Tokyo Cyber Squad and Stardom with Hana Kimura and Joan Kiona and Konami and Ruka. Like, she was a part of that faction. So I knew how good she was, and I'm glad Dynamite saw how good she was, because now she's going to be on Dynamite. And before the Eliminator Tournament, I would have said, oof, because their women's division has been so badly booked. But it seems like they're starting to try to get back on track with it. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But let's talk about something that I found very interesting. I saw this report from Dave Meltzer on the Wrestling Observer that AEW Revolution is set to be the best pay-per-view numbers in the company's history, and the best of any non-WWE show in the US since 1999. Since 1999, so it's going to beat out WCW pay-per-view buys, which is impressive. Meltzer said that while the linear pay-per-view buys are still unknown, the BNR Live numbers were up more than 50% from November's Full Gear, while international numbers were up 20 to 40%. Last year's Double or Nothing generated the company's best 120,000 buys, which Revolution is expected to surpass if the linear buys see a similar increase to the streaming ones. My apologies for the stuttering there. Meltzer reported the gross is in excess to $6 million and will likely be closer to $7 million, with AEW taking home roughly 50% of the distribution partners, traditional pay-per-view providers, BNR Live, Fight TV, etc., taking their cut. So AEW is going to take home $300.5 million, not $305 million, $3.5 million. This is great. But I want to dig a little bit deeper into this. I want to look into something here. So I found this article from Wrestlenomics.com. Now, I haven't been on the website before, so I looked into some of their articles, and they're very stat-based. And when you're stat-based, I'm going to assume that you're actually doing your work. They're doing their homework. So this is from Wrestlenomics.net. This could be inaccurate, but I'm going to assume it is accurate. So I decided to go through every AEW pay-per-view they've had since 2019, look at the buys, and look at who's in the main event. So for Double or Nothing 2019, they did a buy of 98,000. For All Out 2019, did a buy of 88,000. Well, let me just say, 2019 Double or Nothing was main event by Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho. All Out 2019 had 88,000 buys, which was main evented by Chris Jericho and Hangman Page. Full Gear 2019 had 80,000 buys, main evented by Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley in a Lights Out match. AEW Revolution 2020, which to this day I still believe is their best pay-per-view ever, had 90,000 views, which is main evented by Chris Jericho versus Jon Moxley. Double or Nothing 2020 was main evented by Stadium Stampede and had a buy of 105,000, which Meltzer claims has 120,000 buys, so conflicts there. But All Out 2020 had 90,000 buys, which was main evented by Jon Moxley versus MJF. I'll be completely honest, I had to look that up because I honestly forgot what the main event of All Out was, which you can say is not a good thing. And then Full Gear 2020 had 85,000 buys, main evented by Jon Moxley versus Eddie Kingston. And AEW Revolution 2021, being our latest, had 125,000 buys, main evented by Kenny Omega versus Jon Moxley in an exploding barbed wire death match. So the two things I noticed looking at these numbers is that stipulation main events tend to draw. I mean, look at it this way. You have Omega and Jericho, Heyman Page were singles matches. They did 88,000. Full Gear 2019 was Moxley and Omega. They did 80,000, which was lower significantly. But then you head into Double or Nothing 2020. Stadium Stampede had 105,000. Then you look into AEW Revolution, which was the exploding barbed wire death match, had 125,000. So these, like, I don't want to say wacky, but these over the top, like, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Not avant-garde, but exotic or eccentric, one of the two words, stipulations tend to do good numbers. So that I noted. Next thing I noted was that Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley are practically your core main eventers. Like, people always talk about, oh, the SmackDown 6, oh, the Mount Rushmore, the Big Four. Well, the way I look at it, from pay-per-view standards, there's only been one show that wasn't main evented by Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley. And that's All Out 2019 when they crowned the first ever AEW champion. Every other pay-per-view since then and before then has been main evented by either Kenny Omega or Jon Moxley. Now, if I'm counting here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 Kenny Omega pay-per-view main events, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Jon Moxley pay-per-view main events. So Moxley has technically main evented the most pay-per-views so far, and Kenny Omega's right behind him. And right behind both of them, technically, is Chris Jericho, who's main evented 1, 2, 3. So Jericho's right behind him. He's near and close. Actually, wait a minute, hold on. Jericho main evented Double or Nothing 2019, All Out 2019, Full Gear 2019, and then Revolution 2020. So Jericho technically main evented 4 pay-per-views. So he's tied with Kenny Omega right now. Kenny's 1, 2, 3. Yeah. Omega and Jericho are tied. So technically, it's Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, and Jon Moxley. So that's interesting. That's your 3 right there. Every other guy is, you know, Eddie Kingston, MJF. You know, they're kind of throwing in guys in there. Heyman Page. They all have 1. And then Stadium Stampede's like a mix of guys. But so far, those are your guys. So going into Double or Nothing 2020, we'll see who comes up. Is it going to be Omega? Going to be eclipsing Moxley at 5? Because I don't think Moxley's main eventing any more shows until he gets that championship back. Which probably won't be for a while. I think if there's anybody when you talk about who will be the first ever 2-time AEW World Champion between these 3 guys, I think it will be Jon Moxley. Like, Jon Moxley is their guy. Like, when you look at the YouTube numbers, you look at the ratings, because I ain't gonna lie, you put a little bit of analytics bucket, a little here and there. You look at the numbers, Jon Moxley is the one who does, like, the most views for AEW, more often than not. So if you're going by who's the draw, Jon Moxley is the draw. So why not put the title back on Jon Moxley at some point? Now, coming out of AEW Revolution, Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston kind of made amends post the bomb explosion, because Eddie Kingston, quote-unquote, saved Jon Moxley from the very shitty explosion of Revolution. They had their promo on Dynamite that kind of rectified why Eddie Kingston passed out. His explanation being that he basically panicked. And the last time he panicked, he was sitting in a jail cell, ready for court. And the guards were basically taunting Eddie Kingston, saying, oh, you're going to prison, oh, you're going here, oh, you're going there. And Eddie Kingston blacked out. He couldn't breathe and he passed out. And when he went to save Jon Moxley and the explosions went off, he had a PTSD flashback and he passed out. Which is a good explanation. Like, PTSD is a very good explanation for why that happened. But in that promo, you had Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley sitting next to each other. And Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston, they joked about Impact Wrestling making a bomb, which is funny. But then Jon Moxley even said he got his old buddy back, his drinking buddy back, and Eddie Kingston. And Eddie Kingston replied, "The world title does crazy things to you." I thought that was great stuff. And, now that Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley are friends now, we could see them, in tag matches. And it made me think, well, why not do Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley going after the tag team championships? Like, I would be down for that. Why not? I mean, we already had Kenny Omega as the tag team champion, and he's the AEW World Champion right now. I want to think it's a step down for Jon Moxley to go after that. It keeps him in a good picture. It keeps Eddie Kingston in a good limelight because he's the tag team champion with Jon Moxley. I would do that. And then when he's done and Omega's reign is over, you could even do Jon Moxley versus Heyman Page, because I firmly believe Heyman Page is the one beating Kenny Omega for it. It's just a matter of when, not who or how. It's a matter of when it's going to happen. But, after Heyman Page wins it, maybe you could do Moxley and Hangman. Maybe as early as like next year's Revolution or something like that. So I think things are falling into plan nicely. The other thing that happened on that show was Scorpio Sky's heel turn. He had a match against Darby Allin for the TNT Championship, which I believe is his third TNT Championship match, because I think he had 2 championship matches against Cody, which he both lost, of course. So this is his third match, and he came up unsuccessful against Darby Allin, who rolled him up, countering his fireman's carry into a cradle pin. After the match, Scorpio Sky took him down and locked him in a heel hook, doing a heel turn with a heel hook. AEW is very clever with that one. Locks him in a heel hook. Darby Allin actually taps out during this heel hook, but of course, not official match, so it doesn't matter. So, Scorpio Sky looks at his hands, and he smiles, solidifying his heel turn. Scorpio Sky is now a heel. So, I'm not really all too crazy about it. I've never been a big fan of Scorpio Sky. He's a talented guy. But this could be bigger things for him. So, in that matter, I'm happy for him. Now, I think this is possibly setting up for these two to have another match down the line, where if they want to do Scorpio Sky cheating to beat Darby Allin, they could do that and then do a rematch. You could make this a feud, a little mini feud, because look at it this way: when Cody wrote, and I feel like this is so I don't know what the word I'm going to use here for. It was so messed up of Cody to do this. I don't want to say messed up, but it's messed up how they went about it, because when Cody was the TNT champion, he defended the title at least 2 to 3 times a month. Don't want to say every week because it wasn't weekly, but at least 2 to 3 times a month he defended his championship, and he beat most of the roster. Then he lost it to Brody Lee, and then he won it back. God rest Brody Lee's soul. He defended it 2 more times before he lost to Darby Allin. But what he did in the aspect of him defending the championship every week was that he conditioned fans to expect weekly defenses from Darby Allin. And we haven't gotten that. Darby Allin's been champion for going on 5 months now. And we've only gotten, I think, 2 defenses out of Darby Allin. It was the one against, he won it from Cody. He defended it once against Joey Janela. He defended it against Scorpio Sky. And I can't think of another defense he's had. So, Cody defended it at least close to 7 or 9 times. And Darby's defended it 2 times. And Cody held it from May to what? To August? So, yeah, from a 4-month period, Darby Allin's been champion for coming up on close, if not longer than Cody. And he's defended it less times. So it's a bit of a weird situation they put Darby Allin in, because now it looks like he isn't defending the title enough, when it's just that Cody defended it a lot of times. So hopefully this feud will get us more defenses, because I think that Cody set the bar, so Darby has to kind of follow up on that. And if not, then have Darby look like a lackluster champion, then every champion after Darby just needs to follow that trend, because I feel like Cody set the bar too high. Also on that show, the main event was the War Council, where we saw the Inner Circle for the 15th time talk about breaking up. But Sammy Guevara comes out. He cuts off Chris Jericho. He tells him, "I need to show you something." And he shows them basically an FTV clip. A clip of MJF backstage with Santana and Ortiz and Jake Hager talking about turning their back on Chris Jericho tonight. And when the footage ends, you see Santana, Ortiz, and Jake Hager standing side by side with MJF. MJF says, "Sorry it has to be this way, Chris Jericho, but sick 'em, boys." And as they prepare to square up with Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara, who are now standing with each other, they then turn their back over to Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara, and now they're staring down MJF. So the Inner Circle stands tall, all united, reunited, and it feels so good. I say reunited as if they turned on each other and it was like this long breakup. It only lasted like all of like 10 seconds. But Inner Circle is back together. MJF is like shocked by this. Jericho's like, "You really think we don't talk every single day? They figured out your little scheme, you little rat. We're going to beat your ass." And he shoves down MJF. MJF says he's like begging him, pleading Chris Jericho not to attack him because he formed his own little faction. And the lights go out. And now we see Wardlow, FTR, Cash Wheeler and Dax Harwood, Tully Blanchard, and Shawn Spears all standing with each other. And they all beat down the Inner Circle. MJF watches on, smile on his face, and he joins them in beating down Chris Jericho, making him bleed. Wardlow powerbombs Chris Jericho off the stage onto tables as they stand tall as a new unit. So MJF now leading his new faction. I think this is when I watched this initially, I was not really a fan of how it went down. I wasn't soured on the thought of the faction, but I wasn't keen on how they went about having 2 turns in one segment. I thought that was very dumb. But looking back on this in retrospect, looking back on this in hindsight, I thought that the turn still kind of just messed me up the way they went about having 2 terms at once. But now look at it this way. You have the Inner Circle as baby faces, which I didn't ever think they wouldn't make good baby faces, but I didn't expect it to happen. But they are now. And I think that they could actually make for a good babyface tag team. The only reason I say that is because they had entertaining segments as a heel. If you have entertaining heel segments, then I know for sure you're going to have entertaining babyface segments. So I think there is definitely some mileage out of Inner Circle as a babyface. Because at first, we all thought they were going to break up. But they're standing together just without MJF now. The MJF fad only lasted all of like a few months. So now they're together as the good guys. And now you have the bad guys, the heels. MJF, Wardlow, FTR, Tully Blanchard, and Shawn Spears. Now this faction is basically just Tully, FTR, and Shawn Spears joined by Wardlow and MJF. The only thing I have an issue with this faction is that now what this is going to do, this is going to make Shawn Spears the last guy. He's going to be basically the lackey. I don't want to say the lackey. They won't treat him like that. But he's going to be the least common denominator of the faction. Because MJF is the main guy. Wardlow is basically the bodyguard. FTR is the tag team. Tully is the manager. He's wrestled once, but I don't expect him to wrestle every week or wrestle ever again. Then what does Shawn Spears do? He's not gonna team up with MJF. And if he does, we all know he's probably there to take the losing fall. If MJF is teaming up, it's likely with Wardlow. Now, mind you, Wardlow barely wrestles, so he might just team up with Shawn Spears. But I just don't see how Shawn Spears is going to really win in this situation. This is another situation where Shawn Spears is put on a show to do nothing. Now, I'm far from the biggest Shawn Spears fan, but I just feel kind of bad for the guy because I feel like he left WWE to join AEW only to lose to Cody Rhodes and be put on Dark every week. And for a period of time, he was on all AEW pay-per-views, having matches. Just having matches. And now he's part of a faction. And on paper, on the surface, you think this is a good thing for him. But then you look at the grand scheme of how the faction is going to play out, and you're like, I don't know how this is going to work out for him. Unless Tully keeps Shawn in check, and unless Shawn Spears is featured in more singles matches, unless you're going to do a whole 4 horsemen thing, or maybe MJF and Wardlow, I don't know, maybe let's just theoretically map this out, all right? Let's say FTR goes after the tag team championships again. Okay, they win the tag team championships, cool. Let's say, I don't know, MJF goes after the AEW World Championship. Well, who do you put the TNT Championship on? Wardlow or Shawn Spears? Now, a lot of people, including myself, see Wardlow as a big star in the future. He could be a big star now if they wanted to turn babyface, but a big star in the future. Shawn Spears, however, is an established name. We know who Shawn Spears is. So common logic would say, well, put the title on Shawn Spears. Wardlow is the bodyguard of MJF. But if you really want to start getting Wardlow ready and primed for a spot, the thing to do would be to put the TNT Championship on him. So I wouldn't be upset and I wouldn't be shocked if they decided, well, we'll put the TNT Championship on Wardlow and have him be the one to beat Darby for it. So where does that leave Shawn Spears? Nowhere. Out in the dark. So they would have to put Shawn Spears in a prime position and have Wardlow be the bodyguard, as he has been for the last 2 years. Because I don't know how long that's going to last. I'll talk about that in a separate video. Or phase out Shawn Spears again. I don't know what they're going to do. But hopefully Shawn Spears comes out of this better. Because the way I see it, I don't know. I don't really know. Next thing I'm going to talk about here, before we talk about Dynamite this coming week, it's the St. Patrick's Day Slam preview, is Impact Wrestling. Impact Wrestling just had their last big show. Well, I don't want to say big show, it was in a pay-per-view, but Sacrifice was their last show. It saw Impact World Champion Rich Swann take on TNA World Heavyweight Champion Moose in a title unification match. Now, mind you, Moose was officially deemed the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. Like, he's been holding on to this championship for like a whole year now, but wasn't officially the champion. But now he's officially the champion. Just in time for unification match that he lost. I'm not upset that Moose lost, but I just thought it was very, very funny that they crowned him the new champion just to have him lose the title. So Rich Swann wins. He's now the TNA World Heavyweight and Impact World Heavyweight Champion, which he combined, and it's now just the Impact World Championship. He pulled the Kota Ibushi. Impact taking notes here. But that was all to build up to Impact Rebellion, which is the next preview happening on April 29th, which we'll see Rich Swann take on Kenny Omega for both the Impact World and AEW World Championships. This will be the first time the AEW World Championship will be defended outside of AEW. A very, very big move here for both parties, more so for Impact. Impact is really, really, really benefiting from this relationship. And I just hope, for their sake, that in the end, it works out and they actually get more viewers. Because they have gotten more viewers here and there, but they haven't actually sustained those viewers that they got. They fall off on the weeks where there's no AEW talent. Because we got Juice Robinson and David Finlay on the show, which I should also note that they won the Impact World Tag Team Championship. So now New Japan Pro Wrestling guys are holding Impact Gold. Good for them. I basically breezed by that, but good for Juice, Finn Juice. I love this fact. I love the tag team. But the bigger news here is with AEW. With AEW and Impact having this relationship, Impact has been able to get these AEW guys on their show. But whenever they're not on the show, they go back to doing their normal numbers. So we could all just assume Kenny Omega is winning this match. There is not a chance in hizzy that Rich Swann is going to beat Kenny Omega unless they want to do a complete shocker and shock the world, and then Kenny wins the title back like 2 weeks later. Rich Swann is not beating Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega is going to beat Rich Swann. He's going to be the Impact and AEW World Champion. And then what I feel like may happen is that Kenny will be Impact World Champion, but won't be on a show every single week. Or they will do a mass taping where Kenny Omega appears on a show in a promo, but won't be wrestling on a show every single week. Who beats Kenny Omega for it? We'll talk about that on next podcast. But hopefully with Kenny Omega being the Impact World Champion, that gets them more viewers. But we'll see in due time. Now, coming up on Dynamite this week, St. Patrick's Day Slam. We got a few matches on the card confirmed. Jade Cargill will finally be in action. Her first official singles match. We'll see how good she is in the ring by herself. We have Cody Rhodes versus Penta El Zero M. I hope that Pentagon will be the one winning this match. But it's Cody Rhodes, so I won't be surprised if he does. I would love it even more if Pentagon snaps Cody's arm and writes him off television so that way he could be with his wife who's pregnant now. but it's Cody Rhodes, and I won't be surprised if he does end up winning the match. But I'm gonna put my money on Cody, but I'm gonna put my heart on Penta. We also have Jurassic Express and Bear Country versus Private Party, The Butcher and the Blade, and Matt Hardy. A 5-on-5 tag team match, because you know AEW loves their tag team match. They might as well hire we saw Tony Khan on AEW Dark Elevation. He cut a promo and announced we're going to get Matt Sydal versus Kenny Omega next week on Dynamite, which the promo was absolutely horrible. He should never be on TV doing promos ever again. He was on YouTube. That's fine for this one occasion. I never want to see him on in this role again. He was not good on the microphone. He is very socially awkward. He is not. That is not who he is. I do not want to see him there. Cool guy, nice guy, probably cool boss, probably a nice boss, smart boss. Authority figure? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But you know who should be an authority figure on this show? Teddy Long. Because as many goddamn tag team matches we get on this damn show, you might as well have Teddy Long coming out here with his little dance, talking about some holla holla player. Next week, you're going to be in a tag team match. And then, who could be their Undertaker? They don't have an Undertaker. You'll go one-on-one with Cody Rhodes, player. Bringing the hood to you. Oh, no! Oh, no! That's crime time. Oh, my God. I mixed up 3 black people. Oh my god. I'm transphobic and I'm racist now. Jesus Christ, cancel me. Just cancel me. Cancel me outright. But let me turn this podcast off before I say something else. Anyway. Nobody clipped that, by the way. Anyway, so that match is happening. That 5-on-5 is happening. I'm going to say probably Matt Hardy's team wins. Because he lost his earnings at Revolution. He needs to get a win back, I'm sure. Or he could lose again and just do the whole downward spiral storyline, but he's a heel, so I don't know if you want to do that unless you plan on turning him. And I don't think they should turn him, like, right now. He just turned heel recently, so. The main event of the show is something noteworthy. We'll be seeing Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa in a lights out match. Now, lights out technically means it's not the main event. Let's be honest. Let's just be. What the rules say is lights out is an unsanctioned match. Unsanctioned match means it's not sanctioned by AEW. Which technically would mean it's not the main event of Dynamite. But since it's the last match, we're going to say it's the main event of Dynamite. Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa, lights out match. That should be really fun. Women being in a Extreme Rules match intrigues me any point in time. Women in any type of like Extreme Rules or out of the box match, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by men, but women more so. Who wins? Probably Britt Baker. Probably Britt Baker winning this match. But I'm excited for this match nonetheless. And finally, before we tune out here, let's talk about our Wrestlemania Formation. Now, we have 4 matches confirmed for WrestleMania so far. Yeah, too fast there. 4 matches confirmed for WrestleMania so far. Now, these 2 matches were confirmed yesterday. We have the New Day of Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods versus AJ Styles and Omos for the Raw Tag Team Championships. Now, mind you, they don't tell you what day it's on, which may cause issues for fans buying tickets because I'll tell you what, if I'm not knowing what's going on the card, I ain't fucking going. That's just the fact of the matter. I ain't going if I don't know what's on the card. You ain't about to give me a shitty night 1 card and I buy a night 1 ticket. So, I hope that they announce this damn card and they announce what matches are on what card before tickets go on sale. But that's official. AJ Styles and Omos together, I mean, they've been together as a little unit for a bit now, so it makes sense. No predictions on here. I'm just going over the match card. We have Bobby Lashley be defending his WWE Championship against Drew McIntyre. So they're likely to give Drew McIntyre his WrestleMania moment here. But I'm not making that prediction, just saying it's likely to happen. And also, this was announced, I think, last week. We have Sasha Banks defending her SmackDown Women's Championship against Bianca Belair, the winner of the Women's Royal Rumble match. And then we have Roman Reigns versus Edge for the Universal Championship. Roman Reigns being a champion. But we won't end it here. We'll go over Fastlane. Now, I don't plan to watch Fastlane this weekend. I have to work on Sunday anyway, so probably a good chance I'm not watching it, and I probably won't watch it back anyway. But I'll go over this card because this has implications going into WrestleMania. WrestleMania is in, after all, like 4 weeks. On this card, we have Biggie defending the Intercontinental Championship against Apollo Crews. Apollo Crews being a newfound heel. I wouldn't be surprised if Apollo Crews wins and they get a rematch at WrestleMania. So let's just go with Apollo Crews winning. Let's just do predictions. The WWE Women's Tag Team Championships are defended. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler go up against Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. Wasn't this the match last pay-per-view at Elimination Chamber? Why are they winning back again? I don't know. If they were always going to do a two pay-per-view program, they should have just had Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair win the championships at Elimination Chamber. But whatever. We have Drew McIntyre versus Sheamus. I heard they had a really good match on Monday Night Raw. I have not seen the match, but I heard it was really good. Heard good things about it. They could come out here and have another show stealer if I'm led to be believed by what the match was. Drew McIntyre will likely win because Sheamus is not winning with Drew going into WrestleMania as the challenger. We have Braun Strowman versus Shane McMahon. After that horrible, I saw the promo myself, that horrendous promo from Shane McMahon on Raw 2 weeks ago, we're getting this match. Now, I thought this was guaranteed to be a WrestleMania match, and it still very well could be, but they're blowing it off here on Fastlane first. So I'm going to say that Shane wins here, and they'll probably get a match at WrestleMania. We also have on this show, and I am not joking when I say this, Alexa Bliss goes one-on-one with Randy Orton. An intergender match. Randy Orton versus Alexa Bliss. Now, I completely, 100% understand. This will likely be one of those cinematic matches with a lot of plunder and bells and whistles. We're not going to see Randy Orton out here beating the shit out of this 5-foot-tall woman. Not that it wouldn't be, interesting. But it's not going to happen. And we're not going to see Alexa Bliss having her Hulk and Andre moment on Randy Orton. It's going to be a lot of plunder. Who wins? It's like, it's going to be really funny to say that Alexa Bliss has a victory over Randy Orton, but I can very much see the Fiend coming back, causing a distraction, and Alexa Bliss pins Randy Orton. Or Randy Orton's going to say, I'm not losing to a fucking woman, and they do a DQ finish, or they do some BS finish. Randy Orton defeating Alexa Bliss, this sounds really funny to me. That could happen, but it's either Alexa Bliss winning or it's a BS finish. And then what I assume will be the main event, Roman Reigns defends the Universal Championship against Daniel Bryan. Now, Edge and Jey Uso are facing off on SmackDown this Friday to determine who will be the special guest enforcer for the match. If Jay's the special guest enforcer, I'm going to say Roman Reigns retains. If Edge is the special guest enforcer, I'm going to say Roman Reigns still retains. I don't get the sense Daniel Bryan is going to be incorporated into the match WrestleMania. He could very well be incorporated into it, but I don't see why he would have to be. It's not WrestleMania 30. That was 7 years ago, right? That his time has come and gone. I'm not saying I'm against Daniel Bryan being Universal Champion. He's a phenomenal wrestler, phenomenal talent. But Edge won the Rumble. Edge should be facing off against Roman Reigns one-on-one. So I'm going to go with Roman Reigns to defend his Universal Championship against Daniel Bryan successfully. And we will get Edge versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. And that is Chill Spill Podcast episode 38. What do you guys think? Comment down below. Let your boy know. Once again, check me out on TikTok. Follow me on Twitter. Go check out the Patreon page, follow me on Twitch, and go check me out on the Tyler Mask YouTube channel. I love you guys as always, and I will see you all next week for our 22nd consecutive episode. Peace.